a politician of all things who will say pretty much anything to get in office, you have to think about this in a little bit of a different way. And for all the people who got your Bernie Sanders tattoos, or even if you didn't get a Bernie Sanders tattoo, but you were feeling the burn a few months ago, and now you're feeling like that Pepto-Bismol feeling because he's endorsing Mrs. Clinton, I want you guys to remember this. I want you to remember this feeling right now as you think about Bernie Sanders and how you felt when he got up on stage and endorsed Mrs. Clinton, because so many people said Bernie's the only guy. He's not with the banks. He's not in all this other stuff. He is the guy for this country, and now he is backing the Democratic Party's candidate, Mrs. Clinton, just because she is in his party. And this is why I don't personally get into partisan politics. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I have libertarian-esque views, but I'm not a pure libertarian, because then they say you have to agree with everything on our list. You have to support our candidate no matter what. And I don't do that. I like this policy, I like that policy, but I'm not going to blindly support a party just because I am a part of it. And with this, I want to go back to a throwback piece that I shot earlier this year. And this was College Kids Feel the Burn. Now, we went out to the University of Texas and we were talking to the various people out there, asking them who they supported, why they supported them. And the majority of the people we talked to said they like Bernie, for XYZ reasons that I've already mentioned to you here today. And I'm wondering if they still feel as strongly that he's the guy for them. And this is the thing, I understand that when I'm talking to the young Bernie Sanders supporters or young people in general, first-time voters, like I said, this stuff affected me too. I wanted to believe that everything politicians said was true, but now having gone through several election cycles, I understand there's the things that they say to sound good. There's also things that they have an intention to do, but may not be able to follow through on that. For example, let's talk about candidate Obama. Candidate Obama said that he wanted to shut down Guantanamo Bay. Now, let's say that he was true and sincere in this statement. You have Guantanamo Bay, a facility filled with heinous criminals. Of course, we've seen the articles of people who don't need to be in there, but I'm just talking about the people who really are a threat. It'd be like if you shut down Arkham Asylum, okay? You shut down Arkham Asylum, but you don't want the Joker to run wild on the street, so you still got to put him somewhere. A similar thing with Guantanamo Bay. What are you going to do if you shut down this facility? You still have to house these people in some other place. And that's what I'm talking about. These campaign promises, all these things that may sound good at the rallies, or you see them on the talk shows, you read it in your news reports. It sounds good, it sounds great, but how feasible is this? I did not feasibly see a way Bernie Sanders was going to tackle the big banks. Now, did I want him to tackle the big banks? Yeah. Was I Bernie Sanders supporter? No, but I wanted to believe that this man really had the intentions of going after the big banks and busting up the system that has caused so much havoc here in the United States of America. So just keep this in mind. You took one on the chin. Hey, no big deal. You got plenty more election cycles in your life here in the United States of America. So just remember that. And let's go out with this. College kids feel the burn. Hey, how you doing, sir? We're asking people who their favorite presidential candidate is.
Bernie Sanders.
Right now?
Yes.
Probably go with Hillary Clinton or Rubio.
Hillary Clinton or Rubio. Any particular reasons why?
I want someone more towards the center.
Bernie Sanders, for sure, probably.
Okay, so you're feeling the burn. Any particular reason?
Probably as a student, all of his policies about tuition-free college. I don't know if it'll be possible, but it works for me.
Who would pay for the free tuition?
Hopefully the rich people of America.
How's he going to pay for all the free stuff that he's suggesting he's going to give?
I think, he's going to try, obviously, use tax money to pay for it.
Not Donald Trump.
Not Donald Trump.
There's my answer.
Why not the Donald?
I just think he's, not as involved in politics as he should be in order to be our president. I feel like he's too business-minded.
Bernie Sanders.
Any particular reason?
No, I don't really follow politics, really. I just don't like Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton.
How you doing, miss? We're asking people who their favorite presidential candidate is.
Hillary.
Hillary?
Yeah.
Any particular reason?
She's a female, and everyone else, I don't know. Not that I'm for, I feel out of all the ones that are candidates right now, she would be the most appropriate, but not ideal.
Okay. Is there any particular policy that you like about her?
No, I guess just that she's a Democrat. I guess that'd be the only.
Well, why not Bernie if she's a Democrat?
No, 'cause she's female, so Sorry, but that's why.
Anything in particular with Bernie?
Well, I mean, this clear issue of the 1% and the ability of the rich to become richer and not necessarily having a better distribution of wealth in the country. I think that is a very good, conversation to have.
Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my understanding of what you're saying here is that you're supporting Bernie Sanders and his wealth redistribution.
No, well, yes, I am, yeah.
Why do you like Bernie?
He just seems like a good guy. He's a socialist, I believe, and I believe in what he stands for. We had a referendum last year, don't know if you're aware of it, where Scotland had the opportunity to break free from the United Kingdom.
Yes.
And I was very much in favour of that because we wanted a socialist government.
Let me ask you this. Let's say 20 years from now, you have that UT education, you have your big career and whatever, and you're doing good. Would you be okay paying for somebody else's tuition at that point?
Absolutely. I think it's for the responsibility of the upper class of America to take care of the lower class.
Well, there you have it. The majority of the people we've talked to in the short time we've been here at the University of Texas support the Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders. You can find more reports on INFOWARS.com.
Well, the terrorist has been named in the Nice, France attack. And imagine my surprise, once again, his name is Mohammed. Now, I'm quite surprised that we got that information from the media so soon. But you'd really have no idea if you took a look at the New York Times or CNN this morning. You'd think that it was a rogue truck that somehow became animated, plowed into these people. The headline, truck attack on French crowd, scores die. CNN says truck rams crowd, 84 dead in Nice. So this is just like when there is some sort of a mass shooting. They say gun shoots. It's never putting the blame where it belongs. And as we know, suppression of information is key. It's a key tactic used during wartime. And indeed, we are in a war. But that's not all. We can kind of go back a few months. This was actually a story that Paul Joseph Watson broke yesterday. Now, this was hours before this attack took place. So this story kind of got suppressed with all of the news coming out of France. And this is actually a report that the French government covered up torture of the Bataclan victims. And this was in order to avoid offending Muslims. Margaret, I know you have some more on that.
I do. Good evening, Leanne. So we're talking about the French government's inquiry into what happened in the Bataclan Theater in November. And the shocking, startling reality of what these terrorists did to these people, these Islamic extremists, it's just not coming out. And the shocking part of the story is that the French government tried to censor the media from reporting it. They withheld it from the victims, of the families, the people that actually this happened to, it was perpetuated against. And they withheld this information. Why? Because it's part of the sanitation process, so we don't actually know what's going on. We know that the gruesome torture included cutting off the genitals of victims, women that they couldn't cut off their genitals. They would stab them repeatedly in the vagina, disembowel them, chop off their heads, torture them graphically. And if the media had just done their job and talked to eyewitness accounts of survivors, they would have known that. But the steps that the French government took to ensure that this information never got out, and this inquiry, it's sort of a leakage, if you will. They were trying to keep this in. It's so shocking. This would be the first thing you would report.
Right. Well, they don't want people to see the gruesome images when they don't want to offend a certain population. Of course, it was perfectly fine to use that photo of the dead child washed on the beach to push for more immigration. But they don't want you to see the gruesome images of the children who were mowed down in the streets last night in France. They don't want you to see that. That's too terrible. That's too gruesome. But it's perfectly fine if it's going to further an agenda.
Or men having their genitals cut off and brutally tortured while they were still alive. Their bodies were so severely bloated. And the startling aspects of looking into this case, the French government, they blocked the media from reporting the torture of the Bataclan terrorist against the victims. Not only did they do that, but they tried to whitewash it once the information came out. They said, you know what, these bodies, they were blown up. They were so badly, we really aren't sure. We didn't find a knife on the scene, so we can't really confirm that those are knife marks. Well, really, what did they do? I mean, honestly, really? Their genitals were removed prior to killing them. I mean, it doesn't get much clearer than that. And I was looking at older media reports. So in the times of the Vietnam War, the barbaric nature of that, it was shown graphically by the media. And people were able to decide for themselves exactly what the truth was. In this case, it is a very hardline effort to deny the truth, to sanitize it, to whitewash it, to to further the agenda that the mass immigration policy is withstanding. The French people have been disarmed. And when you see something like that happen and people that are motivated to brutalize and gruesomely maim bodies before murdering people, it's just, it's like all hell's broken loose,
right?
Honestly.
Right. And that's the thing that people need to see. It is gruesome. You don't want to see it. You want to hide your eyes. But this is the reality of what is happening in these countries, that when they hate the West and they're willing to do anything to take it down. Speaking also of whitewashing of this killer, now they're kind of saying they're quoting his family, who says he had nothing to do with Islam. He wasn't religious at all. He never went to the mosque. He drank, did drugs. He beat his wife. So, you know, I guess that means he just maybe beat her a little bit harder than is allowed, because, of course, moderate Muslims believe you can lightly beat your wife. That's perfectly fine. So even here, they're kind of running with this thing. Was he truly Islamic, or was the killer just depressed about the breakup of his marriage? Right, because whenever I have a bad breakup, I decide to go plow through thousands of people for a mile.
Don't you, though? Don't we all? That's exactly the appropriate response. We're, of course, talking about Mohamed Boulal, 31 years old, the Tunisian immigrant that assimilated into the French society, French culture, ultimately landed in the French Riviera, incredibly expensive part of France, and he was working as a driver. Been looking at his background all morning long. You know, he killed 84 people. Let's not forget that. And the stories that you were absolutely right. A truck killed these people, anything but the actual Islamic extremist killing these people. And he was said to have committed petty crimes, theft, prior to this major incident, but he didn't really show any signs. So I went looking for a sign, and I know you and I talked about this article before. He traveled to the United States in 2014 to visit a mosque in Brooklyn. Now, this mosque, it actually has a Facebook page, and it's got the address of the mosque. It has his Facebook page that's actually liked the mosque. And you really don't know if you're living in a radical mosque zone. And then a story like this comes out and you're like, wait a second, this man that plowed into 84 people, killing children, women, infants brutally, was visiting a mosque, not on a do not fly list. Nothing's stopping him from coming into the United States and becoming more radicalized. This is coming out of the Daily Caller, and it's really unbelievable. The most shocking part of this, 430,000 likes this facility has on Facebook.
Right. I mean, it's just totally shocking. Totally. How do we stop this is what people are wondering. And, you know, we have Newt Gingrich coming out and saying anyone who is Muslim, we need to just go ahead and ask them, do you agree with Sharia law? We need to, if you do, it's not compatible with Western society. You know, that is sort of an extremist take on this, but we are in a war at this point. We are at war with an ideology. And obviously there are plenty of Muslims here in America that love this country, love being a part of the West, love the fact that they live under the Constitution and not Sharia law.
And we're not marginalizing anyone here. We're pointing out the fact that there is a radical ideology called Islamic extremism. And the fact that Speaker Gingrich came out, and Hannity, he actually backpedaled. He was like, well, I didn't really mean that. I think we should test them. You know, give a Sharia law test. Okay, that's a new one on me. But he's speaking to the sentiment that we have people residing in the country that wholeheartedly abide by Sharia law, that accept the tenets of Sharia law, that do not respect the U.S. Constitution, respect our society, respect any aspect of the freedoms that we have under the Bill of Rights. And Sharia law is their law. Now, what he was saying was we need to test, and he's been really hammered all day to the point where I noticed he was backpedaling just a little.
Of course. Well, you've got to check your privilege. You can't say things that are going to be offensive to a privileged minority of people. And now kind of switching gears here, because a lot of people are saying with these recent attacks, officials are obviously likely very concerned with what's going to be happening at the Republican National Convention. You and I are going to be reporting from the ground there, as well as a whole bunch of the crew. Alex Jones as well will be giving a major speech there. So we're all kind of worried about the potentiality for some terror there. Now, we know it could be coming from George Soros zombie protesters, people who are going to be really kind of going against Donald Trump, who has called for the disallowing of Muslims to enter this country. And of course, this with Newt Gingrich, this is probably going to exacerbate those feelings.
You know, and you're absolutely right. We're going to be in Cleveland, Leanna and I both, and the rest of the INFOWARS staff, including, well, many of the INFOWARS staff, including Alex himself. It's so exciting. I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to see you guys there. We love you. We love your support. But just touching base back to what you said about